Welcome to this week's Halftime Talk feature interview, where we take a deeper dive into some of the most pressing issues affecting global energy markets. I'm glad to have our featured guest speaker for this week, Reggy Vermeulen, who's the Chief Executive Officer at the Port of Duqm in Oman. Welcome, Reggy. And I'd like to kick off the interview by asking you about your outlook for investments in port development, considering the current global market challenges that we're facing at the moment. What's your take on investments in port infrastructure?
I think in general you have an increase in port infrastructure, the investment throughout the Middle East for sure. You have it inside the Gulf with Abu Dhabi and UAE and other countries. You have it in the Red Sea with the Saudi and the NEOM project, and also in the Indian Ocean with the Duqm project and others. So I think that we are still witnessing an increase of port infrastructure, especially because this region, as we all know, is quite central with regards to the development of the overall global population. We are at the cross point between Asia, Africa, the Middle East itself, and we are on the main trading route. So it is only normal that we foresee a more intense usage of logistic infrastructure in the future, seeing the development that are coming ahead of us.
Yeah, certainly. And with Duqm located pretty much at the intersection between the Indian Ocean and the entrance to the Red Sea that connects with the Mediterranean through the Suez Canal, how has the increasing geopolitical instability, particularly in regards to the events happening in the Red Sea, affected the trade flows and the port activities in Duqm? We've seen, for example, many vessels that have had to reroute through the South Africa to reach European ports and American ports. Where's your take on that?
So any disruption is bad, and we saw it already during the COVID crisis, where major disruption happened, and that have waken up, I think, the entire value chain and global procurement on the role of every part of this value chain. And I see that following the crisis, all the companies have rearranged themselves and have become much more agile to these type of crises. Now, indeed, we have a new crisis with the Bab el-Mandeb crisis, with the attacks on ships passing in the area that forces again the reorganization of the logistic. For us, we see it as an evolution, in the sense that that's showing again that we cannot rely on old value chain that used to be in place and we're taken for granted. We see now that every day a route is being disturbed, another one is being opened. So what we see is that most of the main shipping line, the main forwarders, are now opening alternative routes, not for the short term, but also to have a network that will be future-proof. So in the case of Port of Duqm, for the moment, we are really active. We are one of the closest port of the crisis area. So we have been there to support all the effort in stabilizing the region, where it is to reroute some cargo via land, where it is to transport from one ship to another one, where it is to go from air to sea, or vice versa. So we have been able to play a goal, but for me it's more a short-term goal, a role that we're playing now, because everybody patching, but we are really working actively with the major player to say, okay, how do we unplug some routes for the long term and make sure that at any moment different routes are open, and that they're constantly open, and that if one is disturbed, that does not affect as much the world trading as it is today. And it's quite interesting because, for example, in the case of Port of Duqm, we have very big access to the inland via towards Saudi, toward the UAE, towards Oman itself, and then we are also able to serve the entire Indian Ocean. So it's moments like that where we re-engage with the major, as I said, logistic player and really brainstorm of what is the logistic, what is the global logistic of the future, and what role can every major player have.
Yeah, certainly resilience plays a huge role in this aspect you're talking about, especially with increasing geopolitical volatility, so to speak, that we've seen in especially in the region. And regarding that, I wanted to ask you about your outlook for the infrastructure expansion for 2024 in the Port of Duqm, and what are the plans as to continue developing as an energy hub, and where does these resilience components plug into that, given the current context?
So I think that first of all, we as Port of Duqm for infrastructure, we have to see two parts. We have, let's say, a large piece of our already developed infrastructure that is been put into use. So we are in the liquid, we are in container. Actually, we just launched our container terminal. We are in break bulk, dry bulk, ro-ro, and so that is a given fact. It's there, it's built. What we are doing now is with our partners, we are increasing the utilization of it, optimizing it, and putting new equipment. On the other hand, we are also preparing our second basin that is more related to new projects and more captive projects. So it is new infrastructure development, quite big, but they are not for the short term, looking at really the actual logistic world, but more on the domestic and domestic new development, whether it's inside the port or the direct vicinity. And these new the development will then rely on a new infrastructure that we're setting up. So that means that going forward, we will still have the capacity to serve a larger base of destination and needs with what we have built already, while increasing our capacity with custom-built infrastructure for our new projects.
Yeah, and regarding the rise in alternative and cleaner fuels that we're witnessing, what is the outlook for Duqm and Omani ports in general regarding developments to allocate a greater volume of such cleaner alternatives?
So for Duqm, it is very promising for two reasons. First of all, with regards to pure generation of the hydrogen, the Al Wusta region, which is the region where we are in Oman, have a very good combination of wind, solar, and proximity of port infrastructure, which makes it one of the most promising destination to generate pure green hydrogen. So we're really looking at that now. We are working with the Ministry of Energy, and they have set up first 6 projects that are directly in the neighborhood of it. For that, the different companies that have won these 6 plots are at different stage, from pre-feed to advanced feasibility studies. So this is going on. But in parallel, what we're seeing is that not only the generation of the hydrogen is being looked at and addressed, but we see also already the downstream of these generation, and more particularly the attraction of a green steel industry. So it's public. We have companies like Jindal, Mitsui Kobelco, Vale, who are now at also an advanced stage of setting up in Duqm. Actually, Jindal broke ground already in the construction of their plant, and we are working actively with the others towards the same goal. So we see really that there's an acceleration of the attraction of Oman and Duqm because of this green offer that we have. And actually, we went one step further. And we all know that the green molecule is the ultimate goal. It will take some time, but it's on their way. But we have been working and teaming up quite aggressively also with Shell in order to offer a transition via not only the green hydrogen, but also blue hydrogen, which is basically a decarbonized hydrogen, and carbon capture. So basically, the offer that we are setting up in Duqm is to be able to attract different industries and offer them a carbon reduction option from, as I said, carbon capture to blue hydrogen to green hydrogen, and we'll be working on other facilities going forward. So it's quite unique offer, and it keeps us busy, and it makes us also quite unique in the industrial zone or port and industrial zone framework.
And of course, Duqm has always traditionally been played a major role at serving markets from Asia, from Africa, and you know, these are geographies with countries with quite interesting potential from the economic growth perspective. I wanted to ask you about what is your particular outlook for countries in the global south, particularly in Africa as well as South Asia, in India, and also what is the outlook that the Port of Duqm is contemplating in terms to continue delivering to these markets and potentially expanding their activities?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned earlier, it is no secret that the region you mentioned, so starting from Africa to India and Southeast, and actually also Far East, but these are the areas of the globe that will witness in the coming decades still a increase of demand, of trade, of activity. So this is a given, I would say. On the other hand, when I see the direct outreach of the Port of Duqm, which is the Indian Ocean, the Indian Ocean Indian Ocean countries are actually still growing at a very fast pace, but the infrastructure, especially the marine infrastructure linked to it, is not changing and adapting at the same pace that the markets are growing. So that's where the areas like Port of Duqm can play a vital role, because basically the ports have smaller capacities, and so you still need in this region the concept of hub, and there are several that are there, but seeing the importance and the growth will require others. So where Duqm is looking to play a role is actually to have this safe haven, this stable political area where logistics can be done, when manufacturing can be done, and from there distributing in this new huge market and promising market. It is also a quite interesting point, because it is forgotten too often, but Oman have a free trade agreement with the United States. So Duqm and Oman can also play a bridge role between the Middle East, India, Africa, and the Indian Ocean in general, and the United States, in having indeed manufacturing in Duqm based on raw material from the region to reach some promising market, like I said, like the United States or other, because we have other free trade agreements.
Yeah, it seems like 20 minutes go by pretty quickly, but I'd like to thank you, Reggy, for taking your time to contributing with your insights today in the interview. Thank you also the audience for listening to the interview, and feel free to follow Reggy and the Port of Duqm on social media to stay up to date about their developments, and also follow Gulf Intelligence, where we will be publishing this interview. Thank you, Reggy, for your time.
Thank you very much.